If you're anything like I was when I would dream of the day I would one day become a homeowner, you've been spending hours on websites like Zillow and Redfin, perhaps even searching in a city that you don't even live in? No, I think just me then. Okay, well maybe you're saving design-related posts on Instagram or pinning some aspirational photos of the must-haves in your future home to your dream house board on Pinterest. Maybe. Okay, you've consumed HGTV shows to the point where you can definitely tell apart the Property Brothers now, and you wish you were Chip and Joanna's adopted kid, even though your rental contract won't even let you pick up a paintbrush to paint a wall. Gotcha with that one, huh? You have your dreams set on becoming a homeowner. Well, let's make that dream happen. Hi everyone, welcome to the Guild Bramlicker channel. My name is Eileen and I'm a licensed real estate agent, property investor, and homeowner here in beautiful sunny Southern California, specifically in Los Angeles. Welcome to the premiere episode. Yes, this really is the first one. This video and the one succeeding it have been in the works for quite some time, and I cannot even begin to express how excited I am to bring you valuable real estate related content, whether that's buying, investing, or selling. And I should say that that will not be the first pun in this video, so don't say I didn't warn you. But right now, this video is especially dedicated to all you first-time homebuyers out there. If you're watching and you can't define what an escrow is, contingencies are, what inspections are, appraisals, down payment, the difference between a broker and an agent, the difference between prequalification and pre-approval, why you should buy versus rent, how to make a strong offer, what happens during closing, welcome. You're right at home. There's so many foreign terms to first-time home buyers that the entire process can feel overwhelming, convoluted, and straight up confusing, right? I mean, where do you even start? Where does it end?
Where does it end?
I got you. I am all about simplifying the entire process into easily digestible, delicious bits and pieces. I'll help you navigate this momentous time in your life by defining common terms used, explaining common situations you'll run into, and demystifying the more mystifying parts of the home buying process so that you can walk away from this video empowered and a bit savvier than you were before watching. If any of you are in the Southern California area or have any questions about the home buying process, please feel free to connect with me here or leave a comment down below saying, "What's good, neighbor?" But before we start, won't you be a good neighbor and please give me a thumbs up from across the street or screen. Make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell to be notified every time there's a new video. It really helps this video get seen by the people who need it most, and guess what? I like buying property. It's free. So what better way to launch this channel than by outlining the most basic steps of the home buying process in a simple, easy to follow step-by-step guide, right? You want to make sure to stay until the end of this video though, because not only are all the steps in sequential order, I'll also be providing additional videos and resources that will delve deeper into each of these steps. So without further ado, let's get moving. I'm going to break up the home buying process into two parts: the preparation process and the buying process. In the first half, we'll go over everything you need to know before even thinking about connecting with a real estate agent. In the last half, we'll go over everything from offers to escrow, all the way up to that sweet moment where you finally get the keys in your hand. First, I cannot emphasize enough how important this preparation phase is. You could say you're taking the time to build the foundation for the rest of the home buying process so that everything else moves forward smoothly and without any surprises and disappointments. You want to position yourself to be a competitive buyer in a competitive market. And when I say competitive, I mean low inventory of homes, high demand. So right away, here's what you should focus on first in your home buying journey. Number one, finances. Before you book a vacation or buy a car, make sure to look at your finances, right? Most of life's big purchases require you to analyze your individual financial situation. You might check your savings account, see how much debt you have, see how much money your grandma, who always asks you when you're gonna have a baby, is gonna potentially gift you for your birthday. You know, crunch some numbers to make sure that you can comfortably go forward with that purchase, right? Buying a home is no different. If anything, it's all that times quite a few thousands, if not a few hundred thousands, if not millions. You need to make sure your finances and other numbers are in order. Honestly, these are numbers you really should have off the top of your head anyway in order to maintain great financial health and awareness on a consistent basis. But in case you need a little refresher, first you gotta know, what are your assets? What do you own? This includes your savings and investments. This will help determine how much you can put towards that down payment, closing costs, and other expenses. That's right, buying a house is not just about the down payment. Second, you gotta know, how much debt do you have, if any? Absolutely work towards paying off those high interest rate credit cards or loans. No, seriously, this is one of the easiest ways you could be losing money on a regular basis. It's definitely not impossible to purchase a home with existing debt, but that's where you have to assess your own financial situation and consider how much debt you have along with the interest rates. Finally, what's your credit score? Your credit score, if you didn't already know, is a 3-digit number between 300 and 850. That reflects how likely you are to repay any money that's loaned out to you. Remember when we were in school and had GPAs? Think of this as your financial GPA. The higher, the better. Like your GPA when you were in school, it's determined by a number of factors, and like how AP courses are weighted differently, some factors have a bigger impact on that score than others. These factors include credit history, payment history, credit utilization, credit mix, and new credit. In the case of qualifying for a home loan, different loans have different minimum credit scores, but obviously the higher your score, the better off you are. I can make a dozen videos on credit scores alone, so if you're interested in seeing a video about different tips and hacks to increase your credit score, let me know in the comments down below. So other than getting an understanding about your current financial health, get to work on creating a house budget. Again, like being aware of your financial health at all times, having a budget for all of life's expenses is absolutely necessary to have control of the numbers. If you don't control the numbers control you. So, what should you consider in your budget? The biggest thing you should consider in your house budget, well, we've all heard this one, right? Down payment. For those who don't know, a down payment is the initial partial payment of what you put towards a full purchase price. Maybe you've heard that 20% is the magic number for a down payment. Is this true? Actually, bet you didn't even know that 20% is not even what the majority of first-time homebuyers put down. In fact, according to the National Association of Realtors, the average first-time homebuyer in the US puts down just 10%. That's right. So if that's the case, why even put down 20%? Well, here's the thing. Any less than 20% would require you to pay an additional expense of a private mortgage insurance, or PMI for short, which is typically 0.5 to 1% of your loan amount per year. And your interest rate for the loan may also be higher. More money to borrow, more risk for the lender giving you the money, right? The higher risk borrower you are, the more they'll charge. It also all depends on the type of loan you'll eventually use and what you're willing to pay on a monthly basis, which we'll actually be getting into shortly. Putting less than 20% down could also be a disadvantage in a competitive market like the one we've been in when it comes down to multiple offer scenarios and other offers are coming in with a minimum of 20% down. It's a wild time in real estate right now, y'all. Anyway, back to the budget. Besides the down payment, also consider how much you can pay monthly for your mortgage, which if you don't put down 20% would also include the PMI, like I just mentioned, home insurance, potential HOA fees, any other maintenance costs, etc. Whew. The biggest takeaway here, don't stretch beyond your means just to afford your mortgage. I've always been a huge proponent of always living below your means anyway, which is part of how I became a homeowner and property investor in my 20s. That's a video for later. To help you get started, I've actually compiled some incredibly helpful resources and calculators to help you crunch those numbers, so make sure to check those out in the description box below. And most importantly, don't forget to factor in the cost of any treats you need for your furry children. So now you want to know how much you can borrow, or rather, will lenders let you borrow? Which brings me to step 2, pre-qualification and pre-approval with lenders. This really should come before you even start your home search seriously, because there's nothing worse than finding your dream home only to learn that you can't afford it. But if you're thinking about putting in an all-cash offer anyway, just go ahead and skip this step and, call me to be your agent. But for the rest of us, 2 of the most common terms you'll hear before buying a home are pre-qualification and pre-approval. Sounds similar and may seem interchangeable, but it's not. So let's get into those differences. Pre-qualifications are an estimation of your overall borrowing power for a loan with the lender, and it's based on a limited set of information provided by you, the applicant, that the lender has not yet verified. So it's really just to give you an idea of what you may be able to afford given your financial circumstances. Pre-approvals mean business. They're based on a wider set of information which has been reviewed by a loan underwriter or an automated underwriting system. Ugh, I know, lots of jargon and sounds dense, so let's break that down even further. Actually, we love an analogy around here, so let's think about it like a dating profile. Before you hit someone up on a dating app, you check out their profile to get an idea of whether they'll qualify as dating material, right? It's preliminary. You don't really know the person, you just base a first impression on what you see online and what they've decided to present to you in their profile. You are pre-qualifying that potential date. So in a similar sense, you are that dating profile. You provide the loan agent with information regarding your personal financial information without supporting documentation, and then the lender assesses whether or not you'll qualify for a loan within their current programs and requirements. Getting pre-qualified could be a good starting point for you if you're only curious on what loan options are available for you and you want to get a ballpark figure as to what you may qualify for when purchasing a home, but you're not yet serious about it. Going back to the dating analogy, the pre-approval part would be your relationship is Facebook official. I mean, is that even still a thing anymore? Y'all verify that you look like your pictures in person, nobody got catfish, and someone wrote a love letter. Except in real estate, we call that a pre-approval letter. not as romantic, but it can be just as impactful. This pre-approval letter is an offer to lend you a specific amount and is usually good for 60 to 90 days. Getting pre-approved is as close as you can get to confirming your creditworthiness without having a purchase contract in place. It's basically validating what you provided in the pre-qualification. You fill out a mortgage application and the lender will verify the information you provide. Keep in mind though that, like in the relationship scenario, a proposal isn't guaranteed just because of a love letter, right? Getting pre-approved is conditional and does not necessarily guarantee financing, and a mortgage can still be denied for various reasons, usually during escrow. Escrow? What's escrow? Just wait. It's coming up. So the TLDR here, pre-qualification, an estimate. Pre-approval, closer to the real deal. So outside of inspections during escrow, one of the biggest responsibilities as a buyer is to make sure that you work with a dependable lender and lock in the best possible loan and rate that you can, because ultimately, that's money that's not only coming out of your own pocket, but also money that you could be saving by doing your due diligence. So how does the whole pre-qualification, pre-approval process work? Well, so far we learned that lenders are going to need your financial information, right? Before you even pick up the phone, get your documents ready and keep it in one location so it's easily accessible at all times. You'll need 2 years of tax returns, W-2s or 1099s. Speaking of which, to all my self-employed neighbors out there, they're going to bust out an even bigger magnifying glass and scrutinize your finances even closer. So just something to be aware of. Then you'll need your pay stubs, which will show job history and hopefully the fact that you're going to be able to make payments in the future. And 2 consecutive years in that line of work shows consistency. 2 to 6 months of bank statements, which is going to show how much money you got in the bank. You also want to gather anything else that's part of your financial portfolio that includes other assets like investments as well as liabilities. And finally, a full credit report. A phrase that will also come up often during this process is debt to income ratio, or DTI for short. Debt equals how much you owe. Income equals how much you earn. DTI is a ratio that the lender will use to determine how much you can actually afford. Your DTI equals your monthly debt payments divided by your monthly gross income. It's the opposite of credit scores here in that the lower percentage your DTI, the better. If you are getting pre-approved, all your information and documents will be verified and put into an algorithm to see if your numbers meet certain qualifications for a loan. All right, I know that was a lot. So even if you just blanked out for the last 30 seconds, you're like, what was all that? The letter will tell you again what they specifically need from you, but it's always better to be over-prepared, right? And like I mentioned before, you'll usually get a letter that's typically good for 60 to 90 days, depending on the loan and lender, saying you've been pre-approved for X amount. And this is the letter that you can show your real estate agent and eventually the seller to woo them and let them know you're a serious buyer. Here's the thing. In this market where inventory is historically low, you want to set yourself up to become a competitive buyer, and getting pre-approved is one of those ways. And look, ain't nobody trying to have their time wasted looking at homes you can't afford, including yourself. You can't even see some homes now without a pre-approval letter, at least here in LA. So don't set yourself up for disappointment. If you're a serious buyer and you know you're financially ready to buy and want to start home shopping, you can skip the pre-qualification step, which is really just a phone call anyway, and apply to get pre-approved. Another advantage of being pre-approved is that if you find the home that's the perfect fit for you, you can immediately hit the ground running and move quickly without having to worry if you can actually afford it, because somebody's already run the numbers for you. Time is of the essence, especially in this market. And I know some of you out there will say, but won't my credit score take a hit? Fair. It's so great that you're concerned about your credit score. However, getting a credit check is just one of those necessary steps to getting closer to being handed the key to your home. And if you try and get pre-approved and tell the lender not to run your credit because you don't want your score to take a hit, you risk sending a red flag to the lender that you're not so serious after all, and you may be thrown on the back burner in terms of service because they gotta make money too. They're gonna focus their time on buyers who are serious and will actually utilize their services. And sounding like a broken record here, but in this competitive market, there are more than enough serious buyers out there for them to turn their attention to. And here's a beautiful thing. As stated by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, within a 45-day window, multiple credit checks from mortgage lenders are recorded on your credit report as a single inquiry. That's right. Creditors get it. They'll see the inquiries and understand that you're shopping around and realize that you're really only going to buy one home. Speaking of shopping around and going back to that dating analogy, sure, it's possible to find that one true love that first time around. But sometimes it's also good to take out a few people for coffee, maybe get some free drinks, free dinners, know what I'm saying? Before settling down. So date around. I mean, make sure to do your due diligence and shop around. And this doesn't just go for lenders, also for home insurance and other costs you may be responsible for. When you are shopping around with lenders, remember that it's not always just about the best rate. It's also about working with someone who is responsive and will help you close the deal on time. Start by searching online for loan officers in your area who are highly reviewed and recommended. You want someone who's responsive and is used to meeting real estate timelines, delivering on promises, and locking in what was agreed upon. Let's be real, you're gonna have to put in some work here, and all that time and effort put in and paperwork sounds as enjoyable as sending out 50 resumes and sitting through a ton of job interviews, but like landing that dream job, the payoff will be oh so sweet. Working with a good loan officer or mortgage broker is the start of building your team that will eventually include your agent. And with every successful team, communication and trust are key here. This is the team that's gonna help make this a stress-free, smooth, enjoyable experience and hopefully help you get your home. So let's say you made it this far in the video, but happened to check out for parts of it. It's fine, I forgive you. But you decided to go straight to looking for a real estate agent. Everything I just mentioned is what they're gonna tell you to do anyway, so you might as well check that off your list so you and your agent can hit the ground running. All right, we are finally at step 3, goals. I know, the previous step was a lot, talking about loans, lenders, and numbers, so let's have a little fun, right? Number 3 is what I think is usually one of the more fun aspects of the home buying process, clarifying your goals for your ideal home. I say ideal here because keep in mind that there will never be a perfect house, because if that were the case, all of our dream homes would be for free, right? Yeah, so sorry. Why we do this is so it'll help you, as well as your future agent, simplify your property search, guide expectations, and save everyone's time. You gotta remember to keep this list realistic and rational. There's actually quite a bit to consider here, so before you go down the hole and you're adamant that your toilet water absolutely drain in a clockwise direction, I don't know. Check out a link to a free house goals questionnaire I give to my clients in the description box below. This questionnaire is going to help evaluate what's important to you, and it breaks down what is truly a need or a deal breaker versus a want versus a wish. And it can help you further clarify your goals you have for your home. It's going to address things like location, how many bedrooms do you need, how many bathrooms, do you need it to be 1-story, 2-story, do you need a yard, do you want a pool? This questionnaire is going to be very comprehensive. It's going to be quite detailed. But there's going to be a balance with this though, right? Like I mentioned how there's never really a perfect home, but you're still going to want to find a home that matches most of your needs. I mean, I get it. We all really want a gold toilet with a magical bidet, but that's not really a need, right? Along with the features of a home, there's also some practical things you want to consider as well, such as how long will you stay there if you have some sort of idea. Is this your forever home, or are you buying with the intention of moving within the next few years? Are you passing on your property soon to your children? Is this an investment property? I bring up investment properties here because for me personally, I went into my first property purchase knowing that it wasn't going to be my forever home and that I was eventually going to be renting it out. So I began my house search through those lenses, and as much as I love interior design and aesthetic, I had to care less about features like flooring, cabinet colors, and fixtures because I knew that this wasn't going to be my forever home. Even though certain things were definitely not my style, it would eventually have to be renter friendly versus solely catering to my personal tastes. And if that's not the case for you, that's totally fine. I'm just telling you the story so you make sure to understand what your goals for your future home are and go through your home buying goals with that perspective. All right, so let's say that you filled out that questionnaire. You have done your homework. Your home work. I warned you. You're pre-approved, you have the down payment money ready, and you've done the budgeting that will account for all of the other expenses like closing costs, appraisal, inspections, ongoing home maintenance, property taxes, basically everything I already went over. Which brings me to step 4, finding an agent. This probably goes without saying, but full disclosure, in case you forgot, I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of California. I may be a bit biased when I say all this, but I will try my best to give you a more objective, unbiased pros and cons list of working with a real estate agent. But why do you even need an agent? We have the internet at our fingertips. We're living in the information age. Think of it this way. You wouldn't climb Mount Everest without a Sherpa, right? I mean, technically it's possible, but I'm willing to bet that you would want someone to be your trusted guide, no matter how fit and well-trained you are. Real estate is the same, except maybe a little less life-threatening. Hopefully. Now, in the industry, we generally refer to real estate agents as the buyer's agent, representing you, the buyer, and the listing agent, aka the seller's agent, representing the seller. And while some agents specialize in working exclusively with buyers, the opposite is true as well. A good agent can certainly do both competently. All agents are actually legally bound to have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients. If it what now? Well, the California Civil Jury Instructions defines fiduciary duty to mean acting with the utmost good faith in the best interests of their client, meaning your best interests must always come before our own. So let's get into the pros and cons of using a great agent. First things first, using the services of a buyer's agent costs you, the buyer, nothing. Just like liking this video. That's right, I am free for you to use to buy your home. Generally speaking. Here's how it works. So buyer's agents get paid through a commission split from the listing or the seller's agent that the seller has negotiated a percentage of the home sale with. Whether or not you use a real estate agent to buy your home, the seller of that home is still paying that commission, so why wouldn't you use one to represent your interests? And the benefits of working with an agent only grow from there. Let's say you skipped all the previous steps I just mentioned. Real estate agents can definitely recommend lenders to work with and refer other vendors. Now, you might be hesitant to follow through with any referrals that real estate agents make, but let me clarify, there are strict laws prohibiting agents from earning any compensation from their referrals, so no kickbacks allowed. You're also not obligated whatsoever to actually use these referrals. Many times, referrals can come from us having positive experiences with our quality of work, like executing deliverables in a timely manner, which can sometimes make or break a deal when you're in escrow. Great real estate agents will have expert knowledge of the market in general and will listen to you and help you identify your specific market based on your budget and parameters and notify you of relevant listings. We'll provide tools and resources that buyers without agents won't have, such as the MLS. To put simply, the MLS stands for the Multiple Listing Service. It's a platform where we agents find information about homes to share with you if they match your criteria. It's also so much more, but for the sake of brevity, you should know that for now. Good agents will also help with the buying process by negotiating if that's on the table and let you know if it's appropriate based on how the home is priced. In a competitive market with multiple offer scenarios like the one we're in right now, this may not apply, but we still have to figure out how to make the most competitive offer to beat everyone out so that you can get that home that you deserve, honey. We'll also guide you through contracts when it comes down to it. Most importantly, buying a home can oftentimes be an emotional process. Trust me, I've been there. And we're there as your voice of reason and to help keep you aligned with your goals. So we just covered the pros of working with a real estate agent. Now let's talk about the cons. No, but seriously, there really is only one reason why I would advise against working with an agent, and that's if they don't quite provide you with a 5-star service you deserve. It's a sad reality, but unfortunately, like in any industry, there are some folks who don't give you the service that you deserve, and it's really one of the driving forces behind creating this channel in the first place. I wanted to provide value to you, the home buyer, in an educational and hopefully somewhat entertaining way so that you know what a good, qualified agent you work with is supposed to do for you. It's honestly one of the reasons why I became an agent in the first place. There were so many intricacies to navigate during my first time buying a home. It was so daunting, to be honest. So I initially wanted to become licensed to protect my own interests in the future, but I realized that this is knowledge that everyone should easily have access to. Now I'm at a point where I can bring that experience and share it with others and advocate for my own clients, which includes my own friends and family. So how do you find a good agent then? Honestly, do your due diligence. Ask a trusted friend or family member about their experience with working with agents. Find someone who will assure you they will do everything I mentioned about what an agent actually does and tailors the home buying experience towards your specific needs. You obviously want someone with local neighborhood knowledge and someone who's been in the industry but is not jaded and will still fight for you. You also want to work with someone you enjoy talking to and that you get along with because the home buying process could take several months. You also want someone who has constant, open communication with you and will answer whatever questions you may have and advise you throughout the process. Bottom line, you want to feel like you can trust them with one of the biggest financial and probably emotional decisions in your entire life. Let's move on to step 5. House hunting. How you house hunt sort of depends on your timeline. If you're in a hurry to buy, definitely use those goals that we worked on earlier as a guide to make the process as stress-free and enjoyable as possible. Yes, house hunting is an enjoyable and fun process, if you keep your goals in mind. If you're still in the early stages of the home buying process and just entertaining the idea, find your neighborhood. What I mean by that is, have a free weekend, go to open houses, see what's on the market. If you're watching this and open houses are not yet open, see if there are any virtual tours for homes that you're interested in. The more you see, the further you'll home in on what you like and dislike. Remember that goals list we talked about earlier? That'll become much more refined. You'll be able to tell the good versus the bad, but the caveat is you don't want to get to the point where all you do is look at homes all day and all night where you get overwhelmed because then it's no longer fun and it can become mental clutter. But in viewing homes, you'll at least be able to see what different price points will get you. So what you can do is drive around, Eat at a local restaurant, go to the park, go on a walk. If you're up for it, ask someone at the coffee shop how they feel about the neighborhood. Speak with potential future neighbors. Don't go knocking on everyone's doors now, but if you see someone out walking their dog, they're probably local, so you can ask if they like the area and try and get some local insight. Make sure to also go to these neighborhoods during the day and the evening. Also take note of where the sun rises and sets. This is important for some people and cultures. How's your cell phone reception? I know this sounds so extra, but bad cell phone reception in your home can impact your lifestyle. Unless you're willing to switch carriers, consider this. When you're thinking about location, think about the proximity to your job, restaurants, grocery stores, walkability, nature, if that's your thing. If you like hiking, is the home close to hiking trails, beaches, or mountains? If you have to commute, do a mock drive. Or if you work from home, how's the noise level? Is the neighborhood getting a lot of resources from the city for future development? And if you have kids, are there good schools in the area? I know, it's a lot, so just remember to keep in mind the things you can change versus the things you can't. Also, hoping at this point that you have a real estate agent, consult with them and ask them if they have any listings for you. And when you are touring homes with your agent, take notes on what you liked or disliked, and whether that's by pen or paper, on your phone, or through photos and videos, because after viewing so many homes, trust me, it can be easy to forget about the details of certain homes, and everything can soon become a blur, and we don't want that. Be mindful about your comments about the home if the listing agent is nearby, whether they're negative or positive. Or even if nobody else is nearby, a lot of homes are smart homes nowadays, so you never know who's listening. Always assume someone else can hear you if you're on that property, so wait until you're off the property to have those discussions with your agent about how you want to move forward. Speaking of moving on to step 6, offers. All right, this is it. The moment you and your agent have been waiting for. You have finally found that house that checks off most of those boxes. Remember, there's no such thing as a perfect house, and you are ready to write an offer. Buying a house isn't like going to the grocery store and simply exchanging payment for the displayed price of, say, $5 for toilet paper, because if that were the case, there are hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars worth of toilet paper at play here. And if there's that much at stake, shoot, you should be able to get either a discount on all those rolls. Or, in the case of a pandemic where there was a shortage, possibly have to pay even more. Too soon. So this is where the value of having a knowledgeable agent is going to come into play. Depending on what the list price is, you might want to come in lower or higher or right at that price. Your agent can take a look at the comps, short for comparables, which are sales of comparable homes in the area that you're about to put an offer on, and consider other factors of the homes like features, square footage, etc. Comps help you with crafting a data-driven offer that will also make you competitive, as opposed to an emotional one where you might overpay and end up regretting it. How you and your agent approach the offer will almost always depend on comps and the state of the market. And what I mean by that is it a seller's or a buyer's market? Seller's market means that there are more buyers than houses. And a buyer's market means that there are more houses than buyers. I touched on this briefly before, but it's basically the supply and demand principle. We have historically low levels of inventory here in Southern California, and I know for most of the country, multiple offer scenarios have been going over asking price in recent years because of the historically low interest rates for home loans. The biggest takeaway here is offering a number that you won't regret if they don't accept, and won't regret if they do. There is so much more I could cover here when it comes to navigating offers, including lowball offers, multiple offer scenarios, negotiating tactics. They're all their own videos, so definitely subscribe and let me know in the comments which topics you'd be interested in hearing me talk about. But generally speaking, with the assistance of a real estate agent, you'll fill out a residential purchase agreement, or RPA for short, which will include pertinent information including buyer and seller info, property address, target date for closing, terms, conditions. It'll also include the amount for the earnest money deposit, or EMD. This is not to be confused with a down payment. Earnest money is a deposit you put down with your offer on a house to show good faith that you'll follow through on the offer. So let's go back to that dating analogy from earlier, except now, instead of it being with you and the lender, it's between you and the seller. So when a relationship gets serious, there's usually a proposal. And the person who proposes offers a ring to show that they're serious about the relationship and wish to marry, right? Similarly, the EMD serves to show that you are serious about your offer. And like how the person who proposed can lose the engagement ring if they call off the engagement and break up, if you as a buyer decide to back out for unacceptable reasons once the offer has been accepted, you can lose your deposit. I mean, I guess if the breakup was amicable, then the person who proposed might be able to get the ring back, but it's not always guaranteed. So in LA, the EMD is roughly 3% of the total purchase price, and you would have 3 days from the date of offer acceptance for that money to go into escrow, and generally will go towards your down payment on closing day. So in your offer, you'll also spell out your contingencies, which are back out clauses, which let you back out of the contract and receive your deposit back without any repercussions. So a contingency can say, blank must occur in order for the deal to close. Common contingencies are financing, home inspection, appraisal. So this is again where having an agent will be helpful as you navigate contingencies and the risks associated with including or not including them. 3 scenarios can occur after you submit an offer. The first one is that it can get rejected. Most buyers will usually move on from this, and It might not seem like it at the time your offer doesn't get accepted, but there's always going to be another house. New sellers will be coming onto the market, so patience, my friends. Patience will reward you greatly throughout your home buying journey. The second scenario is a counter offer. So what this does is it essentially nullifies or cancels the first offer, but the seller's letting you know what number they're willing to accept, and there's potential for a deal here. An agent will then guide you on how to proceed given the numbers. Things are going to be moving quickly here though, so make sure you're available and keep your lines of communication open at all times. Or the third and best case scenario, your offer gets accepted. Congrats, you're officially in contract and you're in escrow. If you're new to the home buying process and you're anything like I was before buying my first home, anytime I heard the word escrow being thrown out there in the world, all I could picture was this highly agreeable crow in front of a house. Now that I've had some experience, I can sit here and tell you that it's definitely not that, as hilarious as that would be. Escrow is a legal contractual arrangement where a neutral third party gets involved to protect the integrity of the transaction. A third party gets involved here because there's generally so much money involved and several action items that need to occur in order for the house to close so that you can become the official proud owner of that home. That third party, or escrow company, will look at that purchase agreement and make sure every stipulation has been met on schedule, every penny has been accounted for, and communicate with all parties involved, whether that's you, your agent, the lender, or the seller. Timeline-wise, escrow generally takes 30 to 45 days because that's how long it usually takes securing your financing if you're buying the home with a loan. Remember how I said earlier that financing isn't necessarily guaranteed because of a pre-approval letter? Well, this period is usually when your lender decides whether to actually commit to financing the purchase. I'll get more into that shortly, but let's outline some of the events that happen during escrow. Keeping in mind that every home sale is different, especially depending on whether or not the home was purchased with all cash versus if it was financed. But generally speaking, here's what happens. Remember the earnest money deposit, or EMD, I explained earlier in the video? The escrow company will usually reach out to you with instructions on how to deliver that money to them. And again, it's around 3% of the total purchase price. They'll hold on to that money until the deal is wrapped up. Then, per your lender's instructions, a title search would be initiated. Title refers to evidence of ownership, and it's also during this time that you'll be asked the question of how you would like to hold title. Obviously, everyone's circumstances are different, so how you want to hold title is something you need to research for yourself and consult with an attorney if you need to decide what's best for you. So to explain how and why a title search is done, in the most basic sense, public records are searched to ensure that the seller who is selling you that home actually has the rights to sell you that home and that you can take legal full right of the property without anybody else laying a claim to it down the line. Kind of like a background search. Title insurance can protect the lender in the event that something slid by under the radar during the search and rears its ugly head in the future. Also, during the initial stages of escrow, in California, most seller disclosures are due to buyers within the first 7 days of escrow. Sellers will normally provide a variety of disclosures, including descriptions of the property, reveal any material defects, past or present issues. And if a property is in a planned community with a homeowners association or HOA, the escrow company will order HOA documents to be sent to you, the buyer. These are all documents that you, as a buyer, are responsible for reviewing and understanding so that you know exactly what you're getting into when you're buying this home. Then comes time to do your inspections. Not only as a real estate agent, but as a homeowner myself, I almost always recommend doing as many inspections as you can, and I know some of y'all are thinking, but Eileen, don't I have to pay for all these services? Yes, but think of it this way. This is a time in your life where it's probably the most you've ever spent in your life thus far. A few $100s that can protect you from potentially thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, I mean, worth it. Not to mention, consider your own health and safety and others who will live with you in this home. Inspections can reveal potential hazards in the home, structural issues, bad electrical wiring, unsafe systems. Professionals can provide their expert opinion and can hopefully provide peace of mind by way of information. And again, as a homeowner myself, let me tell you, those inspection reports come in real handy when you're trying to figure out some part of your house somewhere down the line when you have to fix it or figuring out what the name or purpose of something is. Those reports taught me details about the home that I would never have known just by looking around. So I highly recommend getting a general inspection at the minimum, and also consider sewer, roof, pest, termite, plumbing, electrical, foundation, mold, etc. The list goes on as to what you can inspect, so use your best judgment here. And as far as what to expect after, you'll usually be given a summary report of the home condition from that specific professional's point of view, along with supporting photos or videos. Now, before you start freaking out about all the potential issues and legit issues that you'll learn about after reviewing the reports, because I can almost guarantee they will come up, keep in mind that, again, no home is ever perfect, so so it's best to keep those expectations in check. After inspections are done, this is where savvy buyers and real estate agents can use those results as a starting point to enter into what we think of as a second round of negotiations. Depending on the situation, you can request for the seller to make repairs, or what I generally recommend and think is more favorable, which is requesting a credit from the seller or a price reduction, depending on how much the cost of the repairs would be. So all of this is happening, and at the same time, your loan is not quite finalized, so your finances are still going through the underwriting process, meaning an underwriter, someone who works for the lender and is a financial expert, is still verifying your finances and still deciding on whether or not to give you that final loan approval. Other events that can occur to support this decision is requesting additional documentation from you, ordering an appraisal, and requiring you to purchase hazard or home insurance. Regarding appraisals, an appraiser will come out to the property to estimate your property's value based on a variety of factors, including age and condition, to arrive at an amount. Your lender wants to verify that what you offer for the home is indeed what it's worth. It's their way of protecting themselves, where if you default on your payments, meaning you stop paying your monthly mortgage, the lender can sell your home and recover that money. This is where we often hear the term foreclosure, a different topic and term that hopefully you will never have to deal with. Just, be responsible and pay your bills. We won't go in depth into what happens if it doesn't appraise for the offered amount in this video, but just know that there are several outcomes, and it's certainly another one of those topics I can make another video on. Now, on the topic of insurance, it's also during this time that you, as the buyer, will be sorting out your insurances, which again is going to depend on the type of property you're purchasing and if the lender requires it. If you're shopping around for insurance, which, if we've learned anything in this video, shop around. This can be a pretty lengthy phone call with the insurance provider. They're gonna ask you questions about certain features of the home so they can properly assess it. So definitely give yourself more than enough time to accomplish this, and make sure to meet the coverage amount as required by your lender. So now we're in the home stretch. Come on, I had to. And it comes time to release any contingencies by the date outlined in the purchase agreement if conditions have been met. Now comes the final week of escrow, and with it, step 8. Closing time. Hang in there, we are so close to close. With about a week left before closing, quite a few things will still need to happen to eventually facilitate the transfer of ownership and property title from the seller to you, the buyer. But before I get started with the final details leading up to closing day, know that last minute details and situations may arise and must be handled in a timely manner. So even though life can get hectic and busy and anxious with moving plans, keeping communication lines open and remaining available will help immensely for a smooth closing. Once your new loan has finally been approved by your lender, this will then set in motion the final steps. Your lender will send you a closing disclosure, which reflects a lot of in-depth information about your loan, including the amount you're required to pay when you close, if you remember what we referred to earlier as closing costs. Make sure you review this document thoroughly. Your lender will then send your loan documents to an escrow officer from the escrow company, who will then contact you to schedule a signing appointment. So now it's at this point that you can think about the final week before closing as the loan signing and funding, the final walkthrough, and the recording. First, you have your loan signing. At this appointment, all your loan documents are signed and notarized as required. Make sure you bring a valid state ID, driver's license, or passport to sign the loan documents. Be prepared. You'll be there for about an hour or so do those wrist stretches if you got it, since you'll be signing a lot of documents. Once you've reviewed and signed all those closing documents, your escrow officer will combine them with any other documents within the escrow file and return this file to your lender for final review to see if anything else is needed on their end prior to funding the loan. The escrow officer then calculates final closing funds and adds that to the remaining down payment that's required from you, and notifies you of this amount in the form of an estimated settlement statement so that you know how much to hand off or wire to the escrow company. Once the escrow company receives these funds from you, ideally 2 to 3 days before the close of escrow, they request your lender to fund the loan. We'll get to that shortly, but know that also during this time, you and your agent will complete what's called a final walkthrough. This is the opportunity for you to walk through the home one last time before the official close of escrow to be certain that the property is in the same condition as it was when the offer was made, and that the seller has maintained it with no damage from moving out. You and your agent will make sure that everything that was included in the sale of the home, whether that's appliances or certain fixtures, are still there. And if you made a request for repairs, this is also the time to check to see if it was completed to your satisfaction. Assuming all goes well, then the verification of property condition document is signed. Now back to loan funding. After your lender receives and reviews all the documents you signed at that signing appointment, they will then issue funds or fund the loan, meaning they wire your loan funds to the escrow company. Yep, all that borrowed money. This process usually takes 2 to 3 business days, but again, the entire California real estate closing process can vary. These are just average time frames here. So the day before the closing day, ideally all funds are already with the escrow company, including the closing costs and the rest of your down payment. Your loan is funded, the final walkthrough has been completed, and then the escrow officer audits the entire escrow file, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Recording can then be scheduled and is usually authorized for the following day. Recording happens to be our final step in all of this, which happens to be our closing day. The escrow closing day. This is the day, y'all. This is the conclusion of a process that has culminated from long days and weeks of cooperation and effort from all involved, from the seller to the agents, to the loan officer, to the escrow officer, to you, the buyer. It's this beautiful final moment where the grant deed and all the relevant documents are finally recorded at the county recorder's office. This final step of recording officially transfers property ownership from the seller to you, the home buyer. Once the escrow company has been notified and has confirmed that the grant deed and any other recordable documents are officially recorded, they will share the good news with the agents and disperse the funds to the relevant parties after balancing the file. Usually, your agent will give you the keys to your new home where you can now officially celebrate inside of. Well there, my neighbors, we did it. There it is, your guide to buying a home. I sincerely hope you found this helpful, and I hope you now feel like an empowered home buyer. And if you've watched this all in one sitting, first of all, go get yourself a drink and a snack, because if you've seen my hair or makeup change throughout this video, that's exactly what I was doing. And if it seems overwhelming, I totally get it. Refer back to this video anytime, as many times as you need. I've also marked the chapters to this video for easy reference, and you can just follow along in tandem with your own journey if that's what you prefer. And again, if any of you have any questions on the home buying process or anything real estate related, our contact info is in the description box, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.